Hi everyone, it's Tonya Gibbs and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you an art journal tutorial. This is an Yvonne Blair Art Girls project. We are going to use Yvonne's art journals today as well as her Making Waves stamp. This is a glimpse of the art journal page that we are going to create today. So let's go ahead and get started. I have used this art journal before. It is 8 inches by 4 inches and it's a custom made journal that Yvonne has designed. I will put a link down below to a blog post that has it linked up where you can purchase it. The pages are really wonderful for mixed media, and I love it because the pages are very durable and they lay completely flat. So to begin with, I just found an image of a moon on the internet and I have printed it out and on a color laser printer, and I am now going to go ahead and prep my journal page. And I'm using gesso from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft. This gesso has sort of thickened up in the jar a bit because I have left the jar open and it's at the very end of the jar. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to my page to sort of help to spread it out just a little bit. I'm also going to use a piece of freezer paper to blot to between my two pages here so that it doesn't seep through to the other pages below that I've already added to the journal page. This is just going to help keep any over spray from going on to the other pages. I'm going to add that to both sides there, so just to kind of protect some of the other pages that I've already created. So once my pages have been prepped on both sides there, I'm going to decide where I want to add my moon. I'm going to go ahead and let this gesso completely dry and come back to this journal page once it's dried. I've gone into my stash and pulled out some matte medium, and I've also pulled out some acrylic paints. These are just some inexpensive acrylic paints from a sample tubes. I think I got these at a department store in a sampler pack. I think it's Dur, I don't know. It's just a little sample pack that I got picked up around Christmas time a few years back. I've had them in my stash for a while. I'm adding matte medium to the back of my moon, and I am going to add it to the corner of my spread here. I'm using a popsicle stick to make sure I get all the air bubbles out and that it's completely added, pressed down in all sides. Then I'm going to go back over the top of my moon and add matte medium back over the top of that. Make sure you get a good coverage over that and it's completely covered. I don't want any of the paper to be unprepped. Once everything is completely dried, then I'm going to come back and trim the edges of the moon off that are over the edge of the book. And there's just no need for that. I want it to look like it's bleeding off the page there. So just remove all the excess. Again, you do want that to be completely dry or else it will peel. And then I'm just going to go right back over the top of that with my heat gun just to verify that everything is good and dry and sealed, especially over that gesso where it was really thick. Now let's start talking about our ocean color. I wanted to purposely build out the color of the ocean. So I'm using a dark green and a light blue, and then I've added a little bit of white to this. These are full-bodied paints. They are student grade, so they're not great quality, but again, I'm doing this in an art journal. I don't want this paint to be mixed up completely. I do want all of these pigment colors to sort of show through, because when you look at the ocean, you see all of these colors when you're looking through to the ocean, because as you look at the depth of the water, you get a different hue of color all the way through. So I want all of these colors to show. I don't want one color as I'm looking through. That's what's going to give you texture. It's what's going to give you depth of field. All of these things are going to show through. So I'm being very careful not to overmix my color. I do want to make sure I'm getting the color that I want, but I want to see the green. I want to see the blue. I want to see the white as I'm moving around here. So I'm also making sure that I'm spreading this with a key card, and I'm wanting to keep the paint somewhat thick. So I'm moving in a circular motion on my desk, on my journal page, in the shape of the wave that I want. I'm okay that I'm creating lines as I go, because those are all creating texture in my wave, and I'm okay with that. And I'm also dragging that popsicle stick through that. All of these things are going to be relevant as I move around in this journal page. So next I'm going to grab out a little bit of white full-bodied paint, and I'm going to add that back into it as well. I'm using the key card. I'm being very sporadic with where I'm adding it. This is going to be the spray of the ocean as it comes up to create that wave. This is adding more texture, like I said. It's creating depth. Now, once this has had a chance to dry just a little bit, I'm coming back and I'm adding with a paintbrush a little bit of shadowing. What I'm doing is I'm taking some of that residual paint that's there on my palette, and I'm just adding it's basically the same color. I'm just adding it back in. Now I've picked up that dark green, and I'm just going to fan a little bit of that green back into where the wave is curving, and just adding some of that green in there. And what that is where the top of the wave is kind of coming over. It's creating a shadow into that curvature of the wave that's in the back. Now I'm going to do the same thing with that dark blue. I'm going to add a little bit of that down in there too. And where the green is in there and then the blue comes in, it's just creating those different areas of shadow. And then I'm going to do that again across the top, and that's going to give you your depth of field and give you a really good illusion of the circular motion that you're after. I'm going to do it again down here at the base of my wave, and then I'm going to do it right there, right at that edge, and that's what's going to give you the illusion of a circular motion. And what I've done here on my palette is I've introduced a third color, which is an even deeper blue, and I'm going to use that very sparingly on my palette. Now I'm going to come back in with my white, and I'm just going to pounce some white just where you would see that ocean spray, right at those white caps of the ocean wave, just where that wave would be breaking as it came right over the top of that white cap. And then that's where we're going to create our wave. Again, this journal page is meant to be super simple. I didn't want a lot of fuss, in and out, 10-15 minutes max. I didn't want a whole lot of time spent on this. This was just something where the quote needs to stand out, get in and get out kind of deal. I wanted to keep it simple. Just a short little reminder of that not every project needs to be a 2-hour project. Some of it just needs to be simple. I wanted my moon to be there, but not necessarily be the center focal point of this. I wanted the wave to be the focal point, and I wanted my quote to be the focal point here. So I noticed that as I kept moving around, I was losing my shadows, and it was getting harder to see that this was a wave. So I picked up a paper towel to add more texture, and then I noticed that I was sort of, it was getting muddy to me. So I came back in with some of that green and blue and just putting my shadows back in. I think I was losing my shadows is what was happening. I wasn't giving the acrylic paint time to dry, so all of these colors were sort of blending in with one another. That's where I think I was really going wrong. I was spending some time FaceTiming with a friend and not really, or Skyping with a friend and not really paying attention to what I was doing. So lessons learned here, but I liked where it was going, and I still do. I just feel like it was getting a little bit muddy here. So coming back with that paper towel, I decided to just rotate it around and get a feel for that ocean spray one more time. Stepping back away from something like this, sometimes when you get too close to it, you're seeing one thing, but when you step back, you see something different. Might be my advice to you too. Because I noticed that as I'm even editing this video, I start seeing something completely different than I saw whenever I was standing close to it. So, you know, sometimes taking things from a different perspective may help. But then I decided to get away from that up at the top, give this acrylic paint a chance to dry. Maybe I'm losing the perspective of my wave a little bit because I'm just too intimate with it at this point. So I step back and just start adding some things down to the bottom. You know, because as the waves break, they do cause a spray coming off at the bottom. So then I go and get my quote, and I can read that to you in just a few minutes, but it says, you want to make sure if you're going to add this with embossing powder that everything is good and dry, and I think an hour or so has passed by the time I've added this quote, but I'm adding it with the embossing powder here with the Versa ink, and then I decided to go with copper instead of gold. I know you guys have seen me use gold a lot lately, but I decided to go with the copper. But the quote is really cool. It says, "Don't worry if you're making waves, the moon does it all the time." So I thought that was really cool. Lately in my life, I've been shaking things up in my personal life quite a bit lately. Those who follow me on Facebook know that I have decided to return to school, and because of that, I have been kind of a little absent here in my crafting community, and my poor little blog has been a little bit taking the blunt of that. But anyway, so here's a close-up of my journal page, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and you've enjoyed hanging out with me here today. I wanted to keep this very simple, like I said earlier in the video, but just a quick little reminder to don't be afraid to ride that wave wherever it takes you in your life. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to go check out that blog post and leave me some love over there too. That lets Yvonne know that you're really enjoying whatever it is I'm working on. So don't forget to share this with a friend too if you've really enjoyed it.